I think it's about connection, an opportunity to build trust, be authentic. And so I think those are like you get a little window into people's lives, right? When you snoop around, I call it stalking. When you stalk them on social, you get, you feel like you know them, right? A little bit. And I think that can help make that connection that much stronger.
Welcome to the Making Sales Social podcast, featuring the top voices in sales, marketing, and business. Join Brynne Tillman and me, Bob Woods, as we each bring you the best tips and strategies our guests are teaching their clients, so you can leverage them for your own virtual and social selling. Enjoy the show.
Welcome back to Making Sales Social. I am very excited to interview Kristie Jones today. She's like a real life friend, and we've done lots of events together around women sales experts and lots of other things. But I'm excited to talk to her today as she's the author of Selling Your Way In, and she's the principal of Sales Acceleration Group, and really just an incredible B2B SaaS genius when it comes to coaching folks on how to sell better. So welcome to the program.
Thanks, friend. Happy to be here.
Oh, so excited. So as you know, we ask all of our guests, the first question is, what does making sales social mean to you?
I think it's about connection, an opportunity to build trust, be authentic. And so I think those are like you get a little window into people's lives, right? When you snoop around, I call it stalking. When you stalk them on social, you get, you feel like you know them, right? A little bit. And I think that can help make that connection that much stronger.
I love that. That's great. It's a simple answer, but it's true, right? Like that getting to know someone on social makes that connection in real life so much stronger. So That's awesome. So, you've had an interesting journey in sales. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I've definitely been the gamut. I say my first sales job is still my favorite to this day, which was waiting tables. I love that so much because instant gratification and instant feedback, right? So you go, you have a table, the table gets cleared, your tip is right? Your tip is lying there and you're like, okay, thumbs up, middle, down, like, exactly how it went. I mean, there's always people that are, a little more conservative with their tipping, but in general, I was competing with myself every shift, every day, loved it so much. I went from 6 years of doing that, so 2 years in high school and 4 years in college, to right out of college being in retail sales. So I was a manager in a department store, ran 2 commission departments, cosmetics and shoes. And I did that for a couple of years before going down to the buying office, so becoming a buyer. So that side of things. So that was my corporate America. That was my Fortune 500 corporate America life. I got disenchanted with that world at about the 8-year mark. And so left that and literally went from that to a company with fewer than 20 employees. Again, I'm so old, Brynne, that we didn't call it SaaS back then. We called it subscription model. It was an e-learning company, learning and development. So I spent 10 years there. And that's really where I learned about B2B SaaS, being a sales manager of commissioned reps selling in the B2B world. So I really cut my teeth there. And at some point after that, I fell in love with VC backed companies. So I got the VC backed bug, as I say. And then 8 years ago, I started my own consultancy, and I'm calling it Helping One to Many. So instead of just helping one company and one sales team, I'm normally helping somewhere between 3 and 5 at any given time. And that I love that every day is a different day for me.
That's great. And I love how much of an impact you're having on multiple companies. It's so important. So why did you decide to move from corporate to, and I know you're like, I was over it, but where you moved into really being an entrepreneur, your own business, like what sparked that?
I got fired. That's the truth. Okay. And I'm very open about that. That doesn't bother me to say that. But no, I mean, like the world works in mysterious ways and the universe conspired to make this happen. But I went through a reorganization at my company, and I had been reporting up through the sales umbrella. I was managing a team of 13 SDRs, and they decided to reorg and put that under the marketing umbrella, which again was a great place for it, and someplace actually that I wanted it to be. Unfortunately for me, the marketing department was out of Phoenix, Arizona, not St. Louis, Missouri. And so we went through a reorg. So I stayed around. They were, again, like we parted as friends. I stayed around for 3 months. in order to transition that to Arizona, and keep the engine going and the boat afloat, if you will. And I truly was not looking to be an entrepreneur. I was looking for my next VP of sales gig. And a lot of just very interesting things happened literally within that 3-month period of time. And before I knew it, with some VC connections, some introductions from general partners at VCs to early stage startups. And the next thing I know, like it was, the writing was on the wall. Like, I'm going to be consulting for startups. Like, it just was happening. It was happening. And you can't, I say, when the universe conspires to have these things happen, you just need to get on the boat.
Yeah. So I love that. I do. Now, selling your way in, that's really about kind of getting in the door, right? Which most people will say to you is one of the hardest parts of sales. Some people say it's overcoming objections or closing, but I really think it's getting your foot in the door. So tell me a little bit about selling your way in, which is the title of your book, and the challenges it solves.
Yeah, I didn't want to write a how-to book. I think there are plenty of sales how-to books out there. So I'm calling this a personal development book for sales professionals. And really what I wanted to do is talk to sales professionals about using the world of sales to sell their way into a life that they may not have today, even if they're in sales. And so it talks a lot about honing your skills and getting to the top 10%, of your coworkers and your competitors, I say in the book. But really, I think a lot of reasons why people are not getting to the top 10% or maximizing their income have to do with the fact that they picked the wrong sales role for them. And because majority of us are accidental salespeople, we never intended to do that, right? There are only 100 universities throughout the United States that even offer sales as a major or a certificate. And so, I jokingly say, like, you're sitting around the Thanksgiving table before you're getting ready to graduate from college, and Uncle Bob's like, so what do you think you're going to do with yourself after college, right? And you're like, I don't know. And you're like, you should go into insurance sales. And the next thing you know, you're in insurance sales, right? And so you're looking into that. And so I honestly think that the reason why people struggle, and the reason why, the majority of sales professionals across the world are not hitting quota, is that they don't know themselves well enough, or even their options, to pick the right sales role for them. I think I say that we're not being proactive about our career. We're either, again, Uncle Bob at the Thanksgiving table is pushing us in a direction, or a recruiter calls and says, boy, do we have the perfect role for you. And it's so funny because we would never do that. Like, when we're outbound prospecting, we know who our ideal customer profile is. We know who our persona is. We know what problems we solve. We know all of that. And yet we don't handle our career in the same way. We're very reactive about our career and not proactive. And so I wrote a book to help people figure out, like, am I a hunter or a farmer? Should I be in inside sales or outside sales? Should I be selling a product or service? So I say, like, majority of people, I think, are in the wrong role, meaning they're selling the wrong thing in the wrong industry, working for the wrong company, perhaps even the wrong boss, and even in the wrong sales role. So I don't think people really understand maybe all of the options, unless they're at a larger company and you can kind of see what the umbrella looks like. But even then, I don't think sales leaders are mentoring in a way that says, hey, like, I think sales, solution consultant or sales engineer, you're very technical. Maybe that's a better path for you. Like, I don't think we're doing enough help with career pathing and helping people figure that out. So I wrote a book.
That's awesome. So this is a great book for sales leaders to read, primarily to help them serve their team better, ultimately serving the client better. So I think that's fantastic. I love that.
Thank you.
I heard you say becoming into that top 10% of your coworkers or your competitors. What does that, talk a little bit about what that means? How do we do that?
Yeah, I say the work to get to the top doesn't actually happen at work, and true top 10%ers understand that. So let's just put on the table that, like, sales skills are just table stakes, right? So, I always use this example. I'm like, Susan's sitting next to Tina back when we sat in cubies in the office, and Susan's, yeah, right. Susan's listening to everything Tina's saying, and Susan's saying what Tina's saying, but Susan's not at the top 10% like Tina, and she doesn't understand why. What she doesn't understand is what Tina is doing outside of work. So everything, like, when I asked this interview question, tell me 3 things that you do consistently, regardless of the job role or the company you're working for, that you believe if you do these things, you will be successful. And top 10%ers will say the following: I'm at the gym every morning at 6. I have a meditation or a spiritual practice. I have an accountability partner. I, turn off the TV and don't watch The Bachelor so I can read a business book. I put my phone down for 2 hours every day so I can be present with my family. I'm getting 8 hours of sleep. I care about what I put in my body. And so I don't think that people understand that, of the Fortune 500 CEOs across our country, the majority of them exercise, and the majority of those who do it at 5 or 6 a.m. Right? They start their morning that way. It's no surprise that the most successful people in the world, are taking care of their body and understand the mind-body connection and that connection to success. And so when I talk about top 10 percenters, I don't think people I don't think Susan and Tina, I don't think they're talking about that, right? Over the water cooler. I think people don't understand it's the intangibles, those type of things that if you look at the most successful people in any industry doing anything, that, those things are at play for them.
Yeah. And that's why, you always hear the best salespeople were athletes.
That's right.
It kind of fits right into there. They've got grit. They work through the pain.
Yeah.
They're team players. They,
Yep.
have to think about other people above themselves in order to succeed. I have my son is on crew at Rutgers. And so I'm like, this is setting you up for success.
That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, he's up at 5:30 to be on the water at 6:15 every day. I'm like,
that's discipline too, right? That's discipline.
It is.
And that's a huge part of sales is being disciplined.
Yeah. So I love hearing that, right? That makes me happy.
Mm-hmm.
So, I want to go back to something that you said around being on the right seat on the bus kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So let's say we have a sales leader who's listening now, and they're like, I've got a couple of great people on my team. They're very average, but they work really hard and they're committed. How does a sales leader go about, first of all, identifying the right seat on the bus and having kind of that conversation?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, I've said this for a while, we can't motivate the unmotivated. We can only inspire the self-motivated. So first and foremost, that's the question I would ask the sales leader to ask themselves about the individuals that are maybe performing, in the middle. Because if they're not self-motivated, there's probably nothing you can do about that, right? We can't change that. That's a trait, by the way, as opposed to anything else. So traits are set by the time you're 10. And so if you're not ambitious by the time you're 10, if you're not disciplined, if you're not, compassionate, if you're not humble, if those are traits. And so I really believe it goes kind of to those type of things. I think we don't talk enough about that. I've done a lot of work and research on the difference between, skills and characteristics and traits. And we want to interview and hire for traits because they're already there. They're not going anywhere. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I think the other thing is what do people really love? When I ask people, one of the keynotes I give is, identifying and leveraging your superpower, to get you to leverage that success. And so people are like, how do I determine my superpower? And I'm like, what is it that people come and ask you advice about? What is it that seems to be easy for you, but hard for others? What do the other people compliment you on? You're great at that. What do you love doing? What would you be doing if you weren't being paid kind of things? And so I think the sales leaders can ask those type of questions. I say I go way back. If I think about my sales superpower is questioning, but my universal superpower is generosity. And if I go back in time, I was the teenager that every girl came to when they were upset at their parents, going through a breakup with their boyfriend. I called it Cry with Kristie. The phone lines were open every night from 7 to 8. So I've been giving advice and helping people figure things out for a long time. Again, those traits were set pretty early on that I have, this ability to kind of see the forest from the trees and understand where the forest fire is and then, provide water. So, but you have to understand, I think those are some of the things that I think leaders can ask their people. I ask this question every time. I'm like, what is your sales superpower? I want to know if people know that. I asked sales leader the same thing. I asked a candidate yesterday, what is your sales superpower? And so you need to top 10 percenters do this. They know it, right? Others are like, well, what do you mean? And I'm like, oh, you don't know your superpower, which means if you don't know your superpower, you can't use it for good. to put you in a position to get to the top.
Oh, I love that. That's mic drop right there. That's amazing. You talk a lot about how salespeople can kind of own their own income and create the life they want. How would they go about even starting in that world and that way to think that way?
Yeah, I think two things. One is you have to put yourself in the right position, right? That's that right role, selling the right thing in the right industry with the right company and the right leader. And that's also being proactive about your career. So not having a job, but having a career and you determining what your next step is. So I call them step changes. And so I truly believe that those people who are at the top 10% know when to leave and where to go. Right. And so that's not when the recruiter calls you, right? That's reactive. That's not taking control of your career. That means you're probably not going to get the top 10% because you don't know what you're missing. And I use this example from myself. There was a particular company in the learning industry, in the e-learning industry, that I was desperate to work for. I just thought they were the creme de la creme. And I lost a job because I didn't have any international sales leadership experience. And that was a box I hadn't checked. And so I took a job that actually wasn't a good fit for me, but I was going to be given Canada, maybe not EMEA, maybe not APEC, but it's a different country.
International.
So, they speak French up there. There's some French going on. So I took the job that wasn't a perfect fit for me because I wanted to check that box because I didn't want that to ever happen to me again. And I only stayed 10 months. And it was a VC backed company, but it was outside of the SaaS space. And so that's the other thing. So that story has two morals to it. One, I got the check the box I needed to, but I also knew really early on that I had made a mistake. And so I was in and out of there in 10 months. I knew I'd made a mistake. I started to again, get proactive about fixing the mistake I had made before it was going to be too late. And so I immediately started my search back into the SaaS world. And so that's the other thing. I say that's probably the only career mistake I've made along the way is that one. But again, I have a high self-awareness and I knew I had made a mistake. And I was like, okay, it is what it is. Now let's get out of it. Right. And so understanding where you should be and then understanding when you should go.
Yeah.
Right. And not because the recruiter called, because you're like, I checked the boxes at this job, this role, selling this product, selling this service in this industry. Now I need to sell at the enterprise level. Now I need to sell a service, not a product. Now I need to sell what boxes need to be checked for you to get to where you want to be in your career, where you can own your own income. Because top 10 percenters, they get to set their base salary. They get to negotiate things like commission and bonuses, and they get to pick their territory, those type of things. So you want to set yourself up for that, but you have to take responsibility for your career.
Oh, that's really powerful. So my second to last question is, what question should I have asked you that I didn't?
You should ask me this. I'm going to give you my passion topic right now.
Okay.
You should ask me what are sales leaders doing that's a disservice to their sales team currently?
Ooh, that's great. So, Kristie, what are sales leaders doing that's a disservice to their team?
We have stopped teaching the art of sales in lieu of the science of sales. And so here's what's going to happen. I'm gonna give you the disaster in the making. Sales soft skills training is just really not happening much anymore. We're relying on bots, AI, automation, data. And I'm not saying that the science of sales is a bad idea. I'm saying we have swung the pendulum too far to the science of sales, and we're going to lose the art of sales. Why that terrifies me is in the world that I live in the B2B SaaS world, we love to promote the top sales rep to sales leader. And if we have not trained properly the sales professional, the individual contributor, who then becomes a sales leader, very quickly, we're going to be in trouble because they're not going to be qualified to train their sales professionals, their individual contributors, their team. And so the art of sales is so critical. Even without the data, if you had good sales soft skills, then you could still be a top 10%er even without the data. And so I think that's the topic I'm kind of getting a little bit on a bandwagon about, because
You're
I
in a
think,
little TED Talk in there.
oh.
That's very cool. Okay, so my last question, I can't believe how fast this went. How can people get in touch with you?
I would love for them to connect with me on LinkedIn and share their one takeaway from our conversation today. If they'd like to learn more about the book, Selling Your Way In, it's just as easy as sellingyourwayin.com. So those are the two things I would love for them to do. I'd love for them to check out the book and go to sellingyourwayin.com, and I'd love for them to connect and then tell me their one takeaway from our conversation today.
I love this. Thank you so much. I know that our listeners are going to be blown away by the really usable, implementable tips that you gave today, which are strategic, right? Really high level, the way to start to think about things.
Yes.
So thank you so much. And for all our listeners, when you're out and about, don't forget to make your sales social.
Don't miss an episode. Visit socialsaleslink.com/podcast. Leave a review down below. Tell us what you think, what you learned, and what you want to hear from us next. Register for free resources at linkedinlibrary.com. You can also listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Play. Visit our website, socialsaleslink.com, for more information.